Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Brim Fishing Project. And in this episode, we're jumping in the fast boats and heading back to Tasmania for part 2 of the ABT road trip brought to you by Daiwa. In this event, we are heading to the Derwent River on the Saturday the 16th and Sunday the 17th of March 2024. So I'm going to roll the intros. We're going to get through some of the housekeeping and get straight into the angler interviews. Here we go.
Welcome to the Brim Fishing Project. This is where you need to be every Tuesday to find out all the latest tips and tricks to help you target brim on lures. You'll get to hear from some of Australia's elite brim competition anglers and see how they were able to achieve their results in competitions around the country. Now, here's your host, the 2019 Hobie Kayak Fishing World Champion, Andrew Deeth.
All right. So as I record this on Wednesday night, it is the night between days 2 and 3 of the Open. We've got Chris Hickson in the lead, and then Liam Carruthers, Jamie McEwen, Daniel Bonacorso, and Steve Morgan in 5th. Just about 900 grams, more or less, separates Chris Hickson through to Steve Morgan. So definitely any of those guys can come through and win. There's definitely could be a runaway bag. I think Chris will be hard to beat, but we'll see. Can Liam Carruthers jump over the top? Can Jamie McEwen come back to steal a third? Or even Daniel Bonacorso or Steve Morgan come and get 2 in a row? Who knows? I guess we'll know by the time this comes out. Got to tell you, I'm super excited about it though. All right, so in this episode, I'm going to run through the stats and what have you in a minute. We've got the new sponsor on board, Wind Podium Marine Wraps. So I'll tell you a little bit about them later. And we'll do our usual stuff. At the back end of the show, I'll tell you how you can get onto the tournament shirts, which are going to have the Brim Fishing Project on them. And I'll do that at the back end of the interview. So if you want to hear about that, then stay right to the end. All right, let's get straight into all the statistics and what have you. So on the Saturday the 16th, we had a low fish activity at just 20 in the fish activity wheel. We had a major bite period at 4:47 through to 7:17 a.m. with a minor bite period at 1:17 p.m. through to 2:47 p.m. Low tide was at 8:47 a.m. at 0.24 with a high at 4 p.m. at 0.81. Sunday was very low in the fish activity area. We had a major bite period at 5:42 through to 8:12 with a low tide at 9:45 a.m. at 0.21. Running up to a high tide at 1:43 at 1:10. Makes not a lot of sense to me. But anyway, the fish averages. So the boating average. So Isaac Harris was the winner with 10 fish for 10.66, which is 1.06 kilos average per fish, which is a great average. And then in the non-boaters, the average of the fish there was 953 grams. So another cracking result for the non-boaters. So Jonathan Fitzgibbon there with a cracking 6 fish for 5.72 kilos. Well, we'll get to that shortly. Coming up in the coming weeks, we've got the Queensland Team Series out of the Tweed River and then probably the East Coast Brim Series. So a couple of things to look forward to. I've got a stack of shows already recorded, so plenty to come. But I'm looking forward to bringing those to you. So anyway, let's get into the angler interviews. In second place in the non-boaters, here's Evan. All right, so coming in a second place, dropping 3 fish for 2.6 kilos on the Saturday, backing it up on the Sunday with 3 fish for 2.99, which gave him 6 fish for 5.59 kilos. I've got Evan Leonard. Mate, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Davey. Great to be here.
Mate, that's a cracking event, and as we spoke earlier, this is your first crack at it.
Yeah, first ABT. Yeah, so I'm a bit surprised at the result. I just came in to kind of learn about, have a bit of fun. But it turned out to be a great result.
Definitely a very good result. Like to rank in your first is pretty amazing. So, mate, what we might do is we'll run through. So we did have a bit of a chat. So why don't you give us an idea of about what you did for your pre-fish on the Friday?
Yeah, so this being my first ABT, I didn't know anyone. So I ended up just having a wander by foot, kind of heading north, kinds of areas I've fished before, kind of around the Mona Museum. Just kind of looking for spots the fish might be holding up and having a cast every now and then with lures or plastics I thought might work. And turned out to be a couple of hours that was well spent. Yeah, got a couple of fish, but saw a bunch more that I decided to leave there.
Yeah, okay. Being your first comp, so you're coming into comp day, what'd you take with you? Like, did you take 2 or 3 rods, or how was your setup?
Yeah, so I did take 3 rods. Yeah, I had to go out and get a couple new outfits. So I did have the option to, I guess, be competitive and switch over and not retie leaders constantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I started off with Realis Duo ADSP, and then I also had a crab and a mussel tied onto my 2 other rods. So I am someone who tends to bring the whole kitchen sink. So I struggled to fit everything into my backpack, but in the end, obviously, you use probably 3 or 4 things the whole tournament, and that's what ended up happening to me. The crabs and mussels came off pretty quick and were swapped for hard bodies and plastics very quickly.
Very good, very good. All right, well, mate, leading into comp day, so a couple of things. Who did you get paired up with, and just how were the nerves overnight?
So day 1 was Jeffrey Ball. So that was a bit of fun in the little cat. Yeah, it was quite nice, stable platform, and we stayed and fished most of the day, which was really appealed to me. That's what I'm used to. So I could kind of relax and observe what everyone else was doing and kind of try to pick up as many tips and tricks as possible.
Sure. And how did you go throughout the day catching your fish? Like, do you get them early or late, or how'd that look?
Definitely patchiness, I guess, throughout the day. Like, we didn't just roll up and start catching them. Wherever we went, we kind of had to make the perfect cast or work an entire area for maybe 2 or 3 fish max. So definitely took a lot of casting to fill the bag. But it started off fishing a reef near Mona. Pretty popular spot. I think there were 4 or 5 other boats there by the time we got there. But saw a few small fish being pulled in, which was a good sign. So we pulled up, fished the drop off, and struggled to get through the 6-inch salmon that were just constant. So that was a bit of a battle trying to just keep your lure in the strike zone. But we pulled out a couple of fish early, which was nice. But then once the current started picking up, or the tide started coming in, we moved off that spot and headed upriver to kind of some more sheltered bays that didn't quite have the current or tides affecting it so much.
Sure. In that first spot, did you end up getting your fish on the duo, or did you have to end up swapping out?
Yeah, so I did get it on the duo, and then it went quiet, and I thought I'd be clever and throw a crab. But the cranky crab unfortunately got snagged immediately, and so there it went.
Oh, no.
So I took that as a sign from the fishing gods to never use one of those ever again.
Well, there you go.
At least for that day.
I was going to say, you have to double back on that, mate. They're comp-winning lures, but for the day for sure. All right. So then you moved off and you went upriver. Tell us how that went.
Yeah. So once we moved upriver, we kind of started seeing more. We went really shallow a couple of times. We were at about 0.8 of a metre, but casting into 40 centimetres, kind of just in the wash or in real tight tidal reefs. And you could see them moving in there, and every now and then we'd spook one. But that was a bit more successful. We kind of increased I certainly managed to increase my rate of fish, or at least hits.
Yeah.
And managed to fill up my bag reasonably quickly in the end. I think there was one fish that I pulled that was about would have been about 38, 39 fork. So quite a nice fish. But either side of that fish there was just 28s and, yeah, small brim. So it was seemingly random that this big one was in there.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Kind of by the end of the day, what was the standout lure for the day?
Definitely the duo reelers. Yeah, the ADSP in Kamochi, Wagasagi, or however you're supposed to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically gold with a silverish belly and kind of a pinky purple hue down the side. That's, the gold with purple or pink on the side tends to be a Tassie classic colour. Definitely does well on trout, brim, and whatever else you're targeting. So I tended to just throw that. But I had success on one that had been, I guess, beaten by a whole bunch of brim. And so the roll started to lessen that you get on those duo lures. And so it became a bit more like your other hard bodies. Not so much of a roll, but still got your side-to-side action. And for whatever reason, the brim were loving that. So that tended to get more bites as the day increased. But, unfortunately, the condition from some of these fish wasn't great, which was interesting. But then we ended up heading further south, kind of down to the Sandy Bay region, so well into the salt. And while we only picked up, I think, a fish each, the condition was way better. Like, they were small fish, but they were very fat. And probably almost weighed as much as some of my larger fish from the middle reaches.
Wow. Okay. And with the day, did you find that the fish were taken on a slow roll or a pause, or was there any sort of pattern there?
Definitely a pause. Yeah, I'd say since from the Hobart area, whenever I fish, you've always got to work in as many pauses as you can. It's more about keeping your lure in the water for as long as possible and giving them as many opportunities as you can to hit it. But they're typical black brim bite, I guess. They'll hit it on the pause.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. All right. Well, look, at the end of the day, you bought in 2.6 kilos, which was a pretty decent bag. And I think we said you were somewhere around about 9th place overnight. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's right. So the bag was pretty good. So two really nice fish and one quite small fish.
Okay. Well, there you go. All right. So day 2 on the Sunday, who did you get paired up with and how was your day?
Yeah, so day 2 was with Declan Betts. Yeah, he's a great character. And he made for a completely different day 2 compared to my day 1. So he was entirely soft plastics, and it's not something I've done lots of from a boat. So there was a bit of a learning curve at the start. So he took us to some drop-offs and a bit of structure and angled up to all these fish. And I really struggled at the back of the boat to start off with.
Sure.
But was lucky enough that he clued onto that, and he was doing pretty well. While nothing of huge size, I think he had four out of his 5 bag in the live well before I'd even seen one. And so he had a fish that he had to deal with, and was like, pop up the front for a cast. And I did, and first cast, got one in the boat, and that made me relax a little bit. It always makes you a bit anxious when you're seeing someone else own them and you're sitting there wondering what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
That was great of him. And I could relax that I wasn't going to get donutted on the second day.
Yeah, fair enough. And what's your first fish come on?
So I swapped to a Z-Man grub in the motor oil.
Okay.
Just your little 2-inch.
Yeah, okay. So just a pretty basic rig. And what sort of G-Ked did you have that paired up with?
So I guess I mainly used the Berkeley Nitro estuary jigs. And I think I was on a 1/16th at that stage, maybe a 1/24. Yeah, just a little bit heavier just to get it down. I think we were fishing in, maybe 2 to 3 meters.
Okay. All right. So you got your first fish. How'd the rest of the day play out?
Yeah, it was a bit of a battle. So being in the back of the boat, just kind of struggling to get your angles right. And it was, having not fished from a boat, I certainly had a few casts that went a little bit far onto the bank. So that resulted in a fair few reties. But we sort of weren't doing overly well. A couple small fish, but things really started to die down. I think the wind started to pick up as well. And so, Declan had a game plan. And so we headed up to Bridgewater and kind of worked some of the bridge areas. Yeah, another popular spot. I think we were maybe the third or fourth boat to arrive. So we saw a few people throwing mussels and grubs and the like, and pulling in fish. So we did the same, worked along the area, and certainly pulled in some better fish. I think pretty consistently we were hitting 32 to 34 forks.
Sure.
So not nice fish. But then kind of hit another wall there for a bit. We were using grubs and really light jig heads, just working, I guess, basically the top 2 meters of water. And while it produced fish, it eventually went dead.
Okay.
And so there were a few other boats that left, and we were like, oh, we'll try the main channel just for something new. And while I was waiting, I kind of did a small cast and let it sink as much as possible. And once I got near the bottom, it was on. So I think it was maybe a metre or 2 from the bottom. And immediately pulled up a nice 36 fork. And we kind of figured out that from that, the fish were no longer in that top section. There was a bit more current coming in and they were right on the bottom. So I upgraded to, I guess, to something heavier. I think we were using a 1/8. And then threw that on a wave minnow, one of the Bait Junkie wave minnows and motor oil. And basically just throwing it out, waiting until it hit the bottom and slow hopping along the bottom with a decent pause. And they'd pick it up when it was just sitting there.
Okay.
And I guess the trick was just to hit them before they went into the structure.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, you ended up with a slightly better bag, so your fish were all around that sort of 1 kilo mark. So obviously the back end of the day worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah. So we would have caught probably just over 20 fish just doing that, kind of letting a spot rest once we pulled a fish out of it and coming back 10 to 15 minutes later. And there'd be at least 1 or 2 there. And they were all really good quality fish. But it took, multiple fish to upgrade to even just that extra few grams because they were just quite a consistent size.
Sure. And look, fishing with Declan is obviously an experienced angler. Did you pick up any tips or tricks or anything that you went, wow, that's worth coming along for?
Yeah, so I guess my experience prior to fishing with Declan was washing the line whenever you're using soft plastics. So I always found the brim liked the slack line and the natural movement as the plastic fell. I definitely found that I lost or had hits that I just missed completely. While not too many times, it could have resulted in potentially some better fish. But Declan gave me some tips and helped me, I guess, lower the rod tip as the plastic fell, trying to maintain as much tension as possible, and definitely helped me stick more fish in the end.
Yeah, okay. So you think you were just feeling more bites? Is that how it kind of looked?
I think so. Yeah, definitely didn't lose fish, or I could have potentially missed bites if I had too much slack.
Yeah. I mean, it is a tricky one because sometimes the natural fall is really important, but then also keeping in contact is really important. So I guess you got to pick the line, pick whichever way you're going to go.
Yeah, but I think on the day, Declan was in the know, and so his way of doing it definitely resulted in a lot of fish.
Very cool. All right. I didn't ask this for day one, but was there any fish that you lost that you went, oh, I really needed that?
No, not on day one. I think I probably only had 2 hits that I missed, and yeah, I don't think they were anything special. But yeah, day 2, there was one notable fish that had a cast on a pylon, and unfortunately it was a really good cast, so I knew I'd be stuffed if anything took it. And yeah, something big came along and just took it straight into the muscles, and I just felt it rub, and then nothing. So that was a shame. So that was definitely going to be my big fish for the comp. But that's right. It was. I don't think there was much I could have done about that.
No, that's just fishing. Sometimes it happens. But I think the good thing about that is, to win comps, you've got to hook big fish, and sometimes you don't land them, but hooking them's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly right.
Very good. All right, mate. I think that covers the fishing pretty well. The only thing I would ask is what sort of leader were you running for the comp?
Yeah, so I use the Oshia leader Shimano. I only run a pound. It's pretty rare that I change anything up for that. So I've dabbled with 8 or 10 if I'm around heavy structure, but I just find you get so much more when you're fishing 6.
Okay, so it was 6 pound. It dropped out there where you said the poundage. Okay, so 6 pound leader. So not too heavy, but enough to have some pulling power.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I reckon that's a good rundown of the fishing. What did you get to take home as second place for a non-boater?
Yeah, so I got a pretty awesome pack, I guess, Daiwa pack. Yeah, heaps of soft plastics. Yeah, plenty of hard bodies and jig heads, and yeah, some leader, which is always appreciated here. So fishing all the and mussels, leader, always in short supply. But yeah, no, they had a great pack. So it would have been close to $400 worth of gear, and yeah, all of it is definitely appreciated and going to be used in the near future.
How good is that? All right, mate. That is fantastic, mate. Congratulations on second. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to before we head off?
Yeah. The obvious one being the missus. Yeah, put up with me talking about fishing constantly and letting me duck out in the afternoons for a fish and a bit of practice. But also Tom at the Fisherman's Shed. So he's a wealth of knowledge, and that's where I get all my gear from. Yeah, so he's got his finger on the pulse for all things Tassie fishing. So yeah, he definitely helps me out on how to improve and what to use and when.
Oh, there you go. How good's that? Very good. All right, mate. That is fantastic, mate. Congratulations again. Mate, second in any comp is fantastic, but in your first one is even better. So, mate, congratulations, and hopefully we get to talk to you again before the end of the year.
Yeah, I hope so too. So I'm very much hooked now, and I can't wait for my next event.
Very good. All right. Thanks, Evan. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Davey.
All right. Fishing.com.au, your one-stop brim lure and tackle shop. Pick up the latest tackle, including Muscle Vibes, Cranker Crabs, OSP Bent Minnows, Z-Man Plastics, Eco Gear Lures, Daiwa Rods, Reels, and Tackle. Same-day shipping. Shop where the world champion, the Australian champion, and the current ABT champion shops. Fishing.com.au, online or in-store at shop 18/29 Kiora Road, Miranda. So as I do every week, I jump on and have a look and see what's going on there. Now, last weekend was the Woi Woi Hobie round. I came 11th, which was kind of good. On day 2, I got my first bag of fish. I got a bag of fish out in the deep on Baby Vibes. So jumped on there and see what Adam's got going. So he's got a River to Sea Baby Vibe pack. So what that includes is 10 River to Sea Baby Vibes in the GO4A, which is the one with the bit of orange underneath it. Coloured I like, particularly one of our local systems here. 10 of those. You've got a pack of size 14 trebles, a pack of size 16 trebles. So the big ones on the back, the small ones on the front. A packet of size 0 split rings, and also a pair of micro split ring pliers. So you can put all those things together, all for $100. How good is that? I'm sure that the full price of that package will be way over that. So definitely jump online, get that. We're coming into winter, and this is definitely the time to use these little guys. Fishing.com.au. Okay, so up next in first position in the non-boater division, I have an angler that dropped 3 fish for 3.16 on day one, backed it up on day two with a bag of 2.56, giving him a total of 5.72 kilos. I have Jonathan Fitzgibbon. Welcome to the show, mate.
G'day, Andrew. Thanks for having us.
No worries at all. Mate, that is a great little win you had down there in Tasmania.
Yeah, no, it was really exciting. Couldn't believe I got the win. So, yeah, that was good.
Definitely. And we were speaking before, and you did the whole tour. You did the Hobies and then the boats. How was it as an overall experience?
Oh, the Tassie trip was unreal. Just the whole atmosphere of Tasmania is so laid back, and everyone in the Hobie comp, all the blokes are good. Everyone gets along, and because I'm pretty green to the Hobies, everyone's helpful. Yeah, and ABT's the same. They're just everyone, is very helpful with everything, and just an enjoyable scenery.
Ah, that's very good. And we did say, so you're new to the Hobie scene, which means you've got a new Hobie. How good is that?
Yeah, no, they're unreal. They're addictive. I'm just trying to get it out around dams and that around Hobie now as much as I can, to get the practice.
Fair enough. Just in terms of your general fishing, have you been chasing bream for a while, or is it all new to you?
A little while now. I did a couple of ABTs years ago. Just what would it be, probably 15 years ago or something like that. And then stopped for a while and had a couple of goes at boating, and then just thought I wasn't quite up for that yet, and thought I'd just dedicate this year to non-boating and getting some more experience.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, between the non-boats and the Hobies, mate, there's heaps to fish, and I guess maybe somewhat less pressure. So that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I reckon the Hobies was really good too, because it's sort of, you're on your own and you just, I don't know how to say it even, it just gave you the confidence, especially at Swanport. I just got on a good fish, and after that, just got the confidence a bit to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing, although we're reviewing a boating comp, but with the Hobies, it's kind of all on you. Like, if you have a good day, it's all your fault, and if you have a bad day, it's all your fault. So, it's kind of, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We did have a chat pre-interview, and you didn't get out for a pre-fish. So let's run through to day one. So how about we start with, who did you get paired up with, and give us a little bit of a rundown of how your day went?
Yeah, I got paired up with Ben Cook. He was a local Tassie guy. Great fella. We ended up fishing the coast side of the Bowen Bridge, around that area there. I'm not sure of the name of the bay. But yeah, he got us onto some cracking fish, which is always handy when the boater knows where they are.
Definitely. And how did you go? Did you start to get them early, or was it a late bite, or how did that look?
Early, the tide was very low, very calm. So I just was using deep divers, throwing. Ben was fishing the shallows, and I was throwing out into the bay, into the deeper water, and just slow rolling, no jerking with the lure, only just slow roll coming through. And they just started biting. So I kept going with that until the tide came up a bit, and then we started throwing some shallows towards the shore. Well, I did myself, and we're just picking up fish that way.
Okay. Which particular lure were you running in the deeper water?
It was a Smith's lure. It's a panish. It's a 70 mil floating jerk bait. Is in the shallow, and I used the exact same colour in the deep. It's like just bait fish colour, silver. I'm not sure of the actual name of the colour, but it was just pretty much silver with a bit of blue on top.
Right. Okay. So the panish. So with the deeper one, do you have an idea of how deep that's going to run to?
Oh, about 1.2 metres, I think it runs to. So what's that, 3-4 foot sort of thing?
Yeah. And I guess if you had Ben fishing the shallows out the other side of the boat, it probably would have been about the right sort of depth, I guess.
Yeah. And whichever way the boat moved, you sort of just went from rod to rod too to suit the depth.
Sure.
The two rods set up just went like that.
Okay. And did you find that you got a bunch of fish through the day, or was it slow, or how did that look?
Not a lot of fish. I think I might have landed about 6, I think it was. I think there was 239.5 forkers they ended up weighing in, and it might have been a 37 or something. I think we did one for big fish and it went 1.16 or something, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah, they were good fish.
I was going to say a good bag and any system where you can drop, over 3 kilos has been a good day. So, yeah. So with your lines and leaders, were you running braid leader combo or a straight through combo?
Yeah, so I was using a duff rod with a Daiwa Cerdo reel, and I was running 5 pound the J thread straight through on one, and the 4 pound J thread straight through on the other.
Okay.
So yeah, it was pretty simple fishing with the lines. It was a nice and easy knots. Tie the lure on and throw it, sort of thing.
And throw it. And sounds pretty simple. Like, so basically you're casting out into the deeper water, more or less away from the bank, and then a slow roll. That's a pretty.
Yeah, and they weigh about 3.5 grams, I think they are. So they cast fairly well.
Yeah, okay.
So you can get a bit of distance with them. With the line, I find the 5 pound sort of, you don't get as much distance. But I was sort of worried about losing the big fish. That's why I ran with the 5 pound in the Derwent, because 2 years ago I fished there in the last ones and I lost a lot of fish.
Right. Okay. And in terms of the bite, were the fish aggressive? Were they just belting it, or was it just little rattles, or how did that kind of look?
No, it's pretty soft. Yeah, they didn't really smack it too hard. They sort of just loaded up and they were on, as you're whining. So, and I just did a slow roll, no twitches. It was just a very slow roll.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Of your 5 or 6 fish or whatever it was, did you upgrade through the day, or where'd your big fish come?
Yeah, the big fish did come. One of the 39 last come, I think it was around lunchtime. So yeah, that was started to get a bit excited when I got that one.
Absolutely. All right. So the end of day one, you dropped 3.16 on the scales. Now, best I can tell, that has you in first place overnight. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Very good.
Which was their first time ever, so that was pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And were you nervous overnight about that, or what was your thought pattern like?
Oh, no, it was all good. Had a couple of beers, didn't worry about it too much.
Very good. I like it. All right. Day 2 comes around for the Sunday. So who'd you get paired up with, and how'd your day go?
I was with Jason Mayberry. Yeah, he was a really good fisherman. He was using plastics on 2 pound all day pretty much. An unbelievable fisherman. Yeah, he was great to watch. He was pretty much pulled up and was into it straight away. And I thought, oh, he's going to leave me behind, this fella. Because I was a fair way before I got a fish. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So, and Jason, well, he would have been live scoping as well, I'd imagine too.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Yeah, I learned a lot on the day. It was just good to watch him with that, just using the 2 pound and how much pressure he still put on the fish and the way he hooked him and that. So, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. All right. Well, tell us about your day, mate. You ended up with a pretty decent bag. How they come early or late, or how'd that look?
All throughout the day, to be honest. I started off on the shallows again, like shallow divers in the panish, and I wasn't getting anything. So I did give the plastics a go, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. So after an hour or two, I went back to the shallow and the deep, what I was doing on day one, and just eventually got fish. And once I got the first fish, it was sort of just kept going at it and just started casting. And eventually we got the bag and it was good.
Okay. And what was the makeup of your bag? Were they all about the same, sort of, all about that 800, or did you have a couple of big ones, or how'd that look?
Yeah, no, they were all about 800. Did lose a couple, which was a shame, but it was pretty still again at one stage there. So ran the deep diver on the edge of the weed and lost a real good one. But yeah, no, there was still a few fish around. They were just Yeah, I just wasn't as lucky as day one.
Right. But you did bring back in enough to take the comp by 130 grams, which is quite tidy. What I was going to say is if you had to go back and do it again, would you have done anything different? Or I guess as non-boater, maybe you were pretty much hemmed in.
Yeah, I actually like being non-boater because you just got to make up with whatever they take you and whatever, you know what I mean? Just work it wherever you go. So just having a couple of different rods and just throw to whatever suits your style and the conditions and the depth and everything. And that's what I actually really enjoy it. So
Okay. Yeah, very good. One more thing on the fishing. So you're with the two, so Ben Cook and Jason Mabry. Was there any takeaways that you can think about, anything that you learnt that's worth sharing or that you can share?
I'm definitely going to give the 2 pound a go.
Yeah, okay.
With the plastics. Yeah, I'm keen as for that. Yeah, no, it's you can definitely see in the clear water and that it'll work well.
Definitely.
Yeah, picked up a lot of tips how to slow it down with the plastics as well, just slow it right down. And he was very good with to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I've known Jason for a while and I've been around comps where he's won a bunch of stuff. He's very good with 2 pound and with plastics. It's definitely right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, he's a master at throwing them.
Exactly. All right, mate. I think that covers the fishing, mate. For first place as a non-boater, what did you get to take home?
A big diver pack, actually. Yeah, it was really good. The beauty of that is a lot of or pretty much everything in it I'll use, so I was stoked with it.
Yeah, I've been told it's been a common theme amongst actually across the country. People are going, the packs we're getting, we want to use pretty much everything that's in it. So that's a very cool thing.
Yeah, no, it's very good. Yeah,
very good. All right, I think that covers everything. That's a good rundown. Look, I'm quite interested about, like, if you listen to this set of interviews from the ABTs and the Hobies, some guys twitched the lures over the weekend and some guys just slow rolled them. And I don't know, it's an interesting story when you put it all together. In any case, mate, before we head off, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to thank the Hobie guys, Chris, Daryl and Tamika, and everything they did over the Tassie tour. And also Steve and Nicole at ABT. Everything was just run so well. It was, awesome tour.
Fair enough. That's fantastic. All right, Jonathan, mate, congratulations on your win.
Oh, I'm sorry. I better thank the missus this time because in the interview on the day I got in trouble for not thanking her. So I better thank Vanessa for rain and everything in at home and that. So, yeah, thanks to the wife.
Fair enough, mate. There's got to be someone there to hold the fort. So,
yeah.
There you go. All right, mate. Well, as I was saying, mate, congratulations on the win. Yeah, hopefully I get to have a talk to you before the end of the season, maybe at a Hobie round.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew.
No worries at all. Thank you. All right. If you're in the market for a new fishing kayak or maybe looking to make some upgrades to your existing kayak or possibly looking at kayak fishing tournaments, then HWS is the place to go. They have a full range of Hobie kayaks, stock the latest kayak accessories, and are really dialed in when it comes to the best kayak fishing, set up for the casual fisher or the tournament angler. Now, HWS online or in store at shop 3/638 Pacific Highway, Belmont. Free delivery on Hobie kayaks across all of Greater Sydney, Central Coast and Hunter. Now, as you guys know, I'm pretty keen on the Lynx kayak, but I've found someone that is probably more keen than me. And that's Andrew Eddinghausen's brother, so Mick Eddinghausen. So through doing a bit of filming with ET, we went down to Kangaroo Valley and did a little camping trip down there. Now, Mick loves this stuff. He loves his Lynx, and he's done a bunch of videos there with the latest one just today as I record. So if you want to have a look and see someone who's right into it, jump over to Mick Eddinghausen Next Adventure on YouTube. He's got a bunch of videos. But the one that came out today, which is kayak camping gear, what I take on a Hobie Lynx, is a pretty cool one to see how he packed his kayak to go away for a weekend on the water. All right. So if you're looking for Hobie links, then what are you going to do? You're going to go and see James at hws.com.au. All right. So moving into the boating division, I've got in third place an angler dropping 4.74 kilos on the Saturday, backing it up with a bigger bag of 5.12 kilos on the Sunday, giving him a total of 9.86. I'd like to welcome back to the Brim Fishing Project, Mr. Steve Morgan. Welcome, mate.
Welcome, DT. It's always good to be on. Means I've had a good event. And of the 5 events we did in Tassie, I think I got two top 10s. And the kayaks I did rubbish. And out of the top 10 at St Helens. So, even though it's an awesome place to fish, I've got my limits everywhere. You have the events where things line up and your plan's good and you end up at the pointy end.
Exactly, mate. It was a good result, and it looks like guys had a lot of fun, be it the Hobie or the boating events, the ABT events. Mate, we got to come back to the kayaks, mate. I've been thinking about this. Now, how much? And there's not a G up. Like, how much difference do you think it makes being higher up out of the water, like standing on a boat versus sitting in a kayak? Do you reckon that affects you personally, or
100%? So, I've learnt really quickly that I'm fishing out of a little Hobie Lynx with no electronics, so I'm comfortable in these places just going around and looking and knowing where the fish are. But on the day of practice at little Swanport, I didn't have a power pole. And, man, those lynxes are like a kite on the water when you've got no power pole. So come the day when a comp, we had a power pole that was luxury. And what I find is when I black brim fish, I'm always looking for clear water. Like, I don't think that black brim likes stirred up water and there's a bit of sediment in it, a bit of colour. They don't mind tannin stain as long as it's clear. So in a kayak, when I paddle for 4 or 5 Ks and earn my Weet-Bix in the morning getting there, and I get there and the water's a crap colour, I'm not inclined to stay there and do stuff. So I find in the kayak side, unless I can find a good spot where I know is loaded with fish in the right colour water, I'll tend to move around too much. Because in a boat, I can do that. I can just say, I can just drive down the river. Water's rubbish. There, it looks good over there, and I can do it. So that in the kayaks, it makes me learn how much I'm looking for the right water before I even fish.
Okay.
So, and that's kayaks aren't for run and gun guys, are they? Not when you're 50 years old and you're sort of puffing a bit by the time you get there. You're not inclined to want to. I'll just duck over 2 Ks over there to have a look.
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's a few guys in the kayaks that have done really well. Chris Hickson is one of those that does do a lot of Ks, Russell Barbecue. But typically your running and gunning is not the greatest plan unless you're an absolute legend.
Exactly. And look, I only fish kayak tournaments typically every couple of years when I come to Tassie. It's like it's too good not to go kayak fishing. So I'm sure I learned a lot of lessons this year, which I will definitely forget before next time I'm at Tassie, and I'll make all the same mistakes again. So,
Mate, one thing that kind of I didn't quite get out of your answer, which I thought you were going to allude to, was like standing up on a boat where you can see down into the water and watch your line and that sort of stuff, like not being able to do that as easily. Do you think that affects things for you?
I do stand up a lot in the kayaks. If the conditions are good, I'll, even power pole down, I can stand up. In the lynxes, if I stand up, even if there's strong current, it'll blow me against it. So I can fish up and into the current really nicely on the lynx using myself as a sail. So I don't think that's really an excuse for doing it. It is easier on a platform on a boat when I've got 7 rods beside me all rigged up, ready to go, and I pick up the right club for that hole, away I go. But in a kayak, it's a little bit different, and there's skills that I don't expect to be good at because I don't put the time in to master them as good as the guys that are good at kayaks. Like you see the guys that are good at kayak fishing, every time they're up there. So that's because they put the time in and they practice. And it would be pretty arrogant of me to assume that I can just jump straight into kayak and do that straight away. And with my results, it's obvious that I can't. I can catch them. I think I've always caught a limit every time I've done a kayak tournament, but just getting the volume of fish to get those kickers in there is what was no good. At the Swan River, I'm decent at rack fishing in a boat, but in a kayak, I'm fishing all around these guys. Everyone's catching them in racks, and I cannot catch them. I refuse to fish them with a plastic. I want to catch them other ways, but again, that's no excuse. I should have caught 1 or 2 in there, but getting a hiding by those guys, they're great anglers.
Fair enough. And it's like a 2-horse race at the moment for you and Joey Gardner to see if you can get on here the most.
Well, that's, you've thrown down that gauntlet now, so watch out, Joey. I'll be talking to DT a lot this year, I hope.
Fair enough. All right, let's get into it, mate. Pre-fish day, did you get out and dong a few?
Yeah, I used the pre-fish day to catch up with a good mate of mine in Hobart, Plinio Torian. Plinio's an Eco Gear Pro staff. He used to live up in Yamba years and years ago. He used to run a restaurant up there, and he moved to Tassie a long time ago. One of Plenio's claims to fame is he was on one of those house renovation shows once. And I said, what was it like on the reno show? He goes, I had to do 63 days in a row of 16-hour days filming, but I got a $300,000 reno for my house there. So he thought it was a decent deal. But Plinio's always sort of on the river down there, and we never did get to fish much because he's down here. So we took the opportunity to go out and ran a bit of my stuff from history. Like, I went and checked out. I came third in the Derwent last time we were down here. So we went and checked out all the stuff that I fished last time. And it was pretty obvious in the first hour that the tides were the other way around, and it was actually all pretty much junk. We caught 2 or 3 fish early in the morning, fishing structure with mussels and all that stuff that I'd loaded up with. I had all the muss rods rigged up, and it became obvious that last time it was a high tide dropping down. The fish were dropping onto that structure. This time it was a low tide rising, and the fish were not on that structure. So after about 90 minutes of beating our head against the wall and not catching much in the structure, we went upriver and we fished some of the spots that I did well at a decade ago. Up in there's a big bay where Mona is, called Marilla Bay, and it's a massive bay. It's probably 3 or 4 k's long and 2 or 3 k's wide, and it's scattered with all of these oyster reefs. And when you think oyster reef as an East Coaster or a mainlander, you think, oh yeah, it's a bit of rock with some oysters in it. It's like, no, these things are mud banks that are loaded with gigantic oysters and mussels just embedded in all the mud. So sometimes if you're winding your lure down and you're jerk baiting and you jerk it and the line hits the oyster, you just go jerk, jerk, and the second jerk, the lure just cuts off. And then you've got to look up. You've got to use floating lures there. And then you look up, you see your lure float up, and you go over and get it and tie it back on again. So there are literally millions of gigantic oysters up about only maybe 1 or 2 foot under the water surface. And when the current hits these things, firstly, you can see where the current comes over them. So you can outline where the reefs are, but also that's where the fish get right up on top. Like it might be, and they might be surrounded by 6 foot of water, but they get up in about 2 foot of water in the current. They're fighting the little salmon that they get down there for food. And so bait's getting washed onto these oyster reefs and just everything's going nuts on top of them. And there's a really popular one that we dropped into on the practice day. We call it just the black stick. It's a red stick now. It used to be a black stick. And caught a few good fish there and soon worked out that while the current was running, there were fish on these oyster reefs. In the second half of the practice day session, I'd always wanted to go to Ralph's Bay, and it was a nice calm day, so we went in there with Plenio, and I really wanted to see the pristine sand flats with no structure on them, just big mobs of 20 bream digging in the bottom, sort of like bonefish fishing. So we tried for that. Never saw any fish really schooled up or anything that Ralph's is famous for, but I got a lay of the land, and we had the opportunity to at least work out where a few rock piles were. So I went out of the practice day with a pretty solid plan that while there was current in the river, I'd fish and try and get a limit early in the day in the river, and then later in the day I would go down to Ralph's Bay and do a bit more exploring and see if I can catch some upgrades, because if you leave the Derwent with 4 kilos plus and then get a couple of really big fish down at Ralph's. So we did catch one 39 centimetre fork fish, which was like 1.5 kilo tank.
Yeah.
I go, one or two of those in a tournament, you're champion. So it's worth the gamble to me. But I was never going to leave the Derwent without that 4 to 4.5 kilos, where my statement was, am I going to be happy if I catch nothing at Ralph's weighing the bag that I got? And so, I wouldn't leave the river until the current stopped or I was happy with my bag.
Sure.
So we had a plan. And on my Tackle Fridays video, I told everyone, this is my plan for tomorrow. And exactly that plan I did for both days, and it worked out pretty well. Fish the current until it dies, go to Ralph's and try and find some big fish.
Fair enough. All right, let's roll around to comp day. How'd your day play out?
So 14th boat away at the start means that I didn't get my pick of spots when we're going up the river. I started off at the Red Stick, and there was already a couple of boats sitting on it, so I sort of pulled in around the fringes of that. It went pretty well on day one. I was fishing with Andrew Krushka, who's a champion kayak angler down at Tassie. I think he's got the biggest bag of bream ever caught in a kayak tournament out of the Swan River down there.
Yeah.
And Butch and I, we did get a limit pretty early. We fished. The Black Stick has this big reef, which is sort of maybe 200 metres long and a big crescent shape. And we fished down the bottom of the crescent where the current was running over it and got a limit pretty early. When that current slowed down, I fished a few moored boats. I fished a few isolated bits of structure before we said, right, we'll go down to Ralph's Bay. Now, the technique we used fishing the reefs was jerkbaiting. So Tassie's famous for having a great jerkbait bite. You can't rip that jerkbait too hard. Like, it's weird. Like on Gippsland Lake, sometimes it's a real little tiny twitch and pause. Man, down there, you can like crack it like you're barra fishing and they'll come and smash it. So I had a variety of jerkbaits tied on. I had the for shallow stuff. What do I have for the shallow? I had a deep zip baits tied on for some of it. I had a Daiwa Presso minnow tied on for some of it. Just a variety of that sort of 2 to 3 inch long jerkbait, cracking him over the shallowest part of the reef. Now, one of the tools I use to stay on that shallowest part of the reef, when the current runs hard, you can see it rippling over the reef and you can find the right spot. Normally it's about 20 metres upstream from where the ripple is. That's where the shallowest part of the bank is. But when the current slowed down a little bit or there was a bit of wind on the water, I used my Garmin Live Scope in perspective mode and I could see where the front edge of the reef was. So I would always hang my boat sort of a boat length or two back from the lip of the reef and I'd throw up over the lip in the deep water, and as it came up, I'd just be twitching that jerkbait as it drifted over that lip. So that was the pattern for me. It would always get bitten on the first cast to the shallowest bit of the reef. And Butch and I worked that out on the first day. We'd catch a fish in one area, he might catch one, I might catch one, then I'd just move 5 or 10 metres to the next part of the reef. Right. First cast or two, bang, bang, someone to get one, or we get a double hook up, and then we just keep on creeping across. And it was cool. It was obviously not heavily pressured on the first day, and on the second day it was heavily pressured, and I had some plans for that. Anyway, at about lunchtime, it was modified session times. It was 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to try and incorporate that run-in tide. About halfway through the session, we went down to Ralph's, spent about an hour before we caught any fish, but we found one little quarter where there was a few fish, and I managed a 36 and a 37 centimetre fish upgrade. So I probably threw out a 32 and a 33 and put in a 36, 37, and that put my bag from 4 kilos to about 4.7.
Yeah.
Down in Ralph's, it was all about the shallowest jerkbait you can find. A Lucky Craft flash minnow got a tiny bib on it, only goes about a foot under at the most. If your lure hit the bottom in that joint, and there's these things that look like rocks on the bottom, but they're really conjuvoids, if your lure hits that, there is no way you're ever flicking it out. You've got to go over to it with your EnviroNet. You've got to hook one of the trebles of the lure in the EnviroNet and then rip the other treble out of the conjuvoid and then half destroy your treble. So there was absolutely no motivation to get your lure stuck in the bottom. You're throwing a shallow diving jerkbait and you are high sticking, cracking it over these rocks. You do not want it to touch the bottom. And the bream, it's only in 1.5 foot of water. They don't mind coming up to eat it. They don't need it at eye level to eat it down there. But the conjus of death are definitely a feature of Ralph's that you do not want to get too acquainted.
And you said it was a Lucky Craft. I can't remember what you said.
A flash minnow. They're about a 65 mil shallow diving jerkbait. The colour I was using was called, it's like a chrome ghost gill sort of colour. I only literally have one of those lures in my box, and I've had it for like 10 years. Everywhere I fished in Tassie seems to be not dangerous enough to lose it. So it did make it through this whole tournament as well, and it accounted for all my fish in Ralph's. And incidentally, you'll talk to Isaac. Isaac was using exactly that same bait to win again because it stays out of the rocks and the conjuns.
Why? And this is a guy that hasn't fished Tassie. Why not a surface lure then in that situation? They'd not take them?
You know what? Mainland bream are cool. They like top water. Tassie bream there are a few venues like Little Swanport, they eat it. But there's not many places where they're looking upwards. I think they're looking upwards when the prawns are running, and I don't think they have that many prawns in Tassie. I saw one prawn the whole time I was there, and that prawn was running away from a bream that was chasing it. But it's not just like a surface lure is not the first lure you tie on. Like the water temps at the most are about 16, 17 degrees, and I just find that fish are looking maybe more at bait fish than at prawn. So yes, we all try top waters down there, but in the end you end up loading up with a shallow diving jerkbait because the fish are telling you that's what they want.
Very good, very good. All right, mate, you ended up with, I think, what did we say, 4.7 on day one?
Yep.
4.74. Mate, where'd that leave you overnight?
It was around 5th or 6th place. There was a real glut of people on that sort of 4.65 to about 4.8 kilos. Like I reckon there was about 150 grams between 4th and 10th, I reckon. So there was a lot of guys, and you knew you had to sort of catch that much or more the next day. Like typically calm day on the Derwent, day 2, not huge tides. It's going to get a bit tougher. And I was just lucky that I made a bit of an adjustment on day 2, which got me another bag of big fish, which a lot of the rest of the top 10 struggle to get.
Right. Okay, well, let's roll in. What did you change up and how was your day?
So got to the oyster reef, the popular community oyster reef on day 2, and there was already a couple of boats on there. Wally Fay had done well on day 1 there, and there's another couple of boats fishing the fringes. And we pulled on it, and my non-boater, Leighton Beer, he caught a real nice fish about 38 and a half centimetres, like a real big one. But that was the only bream we caught on that bottom section of the reef. Probably in the time we both caught limits the day before, he'd only caught 1 fish. And I go, okay, this is getting pressured, this. But it was a real calm day, and across the bay, this finger of reef, I reckon it went like a kilometre all the way to the bank. And I said, I reckon I could follow that in. So I'd just start sort of crabbing acrossways, and I'd be looking at on my perspective mate, and I would see normal mud on the live scope just was a bland picture. As soon as the oyster reef came in, it can sort of shoot through the mud. It can see the oysters. It just looks like heads of 100 cauliflowers sitting there. So it's a really big distinction on what the reef looks like compared to the mud. So I could follow the ripples and then use my live scope to find just that knuckle on the top of the reef, throw that jerkbait on top of it. And as I moved in towards the shore, there was probably about 6 or 7 little isolated reefs that I reckon no one had fished. Every time we got there, within 1 or 2 casts, I'd say, oh, here's a new bit of reef. We'd line up, and either Leighton or I would crack a nice fish. So by the time I'd sort of drifted and motored sideways that kilometre, I probably had 5 kilos. Fish between 34 and 37 and a half centimetres, all on those jerk baits. Either the shallow one I was using was a Duo Rosanti 63. It's a suspending one, but it's got a magnetic drive system on the inside, which lets it cast a long way. On the first day, I was fishing that on baitcaster BFS stuff. Day 2, I tied a crappy FG and I lost my first fish on it, so I put the baitcaster away. But the Rosanti was the first 2 or 3 fish, and then I thought, you know what, these fish seem to be untouched on these reefs. I'm going to go bigger in lure size to try and pull the bigger fish off there. So I went to it's a 70 or a 75 mil zip bait, a deeper diving zip bait. I'm not exactly sure of the size of it. It's at least 70 mil long, and it's a slightly deeper diver. The Daiwa double clutch would hit the bottom too much and I would snag too much. So I'd use this zip bait and it tended to go just exactly the right depth, and the big ones were just smashing it. So by the time I got to the bank and I'd followed that reef all the way to the bank, I reckon I'd fished reef that no one had fished that whole tournament. And I had a bag, which I didn't know, but it was really strong for the day, because I moved around trying to find some more current, ended up going to Ralph's again. My smallest fish in the limit was probably only a 33 centimetre, maybe a 33. I only upgraded that to a 34 centimetres in Ralph's when I was there. So I only got literally a 1 centimetre upgrade down in Ralph's. Of course, we saw the fish. We saw all the giants that you could have caught to really kill it. But in fact, the Ralph's part of the day wasn't the big upgrade part of the session like it was the day before. But I don't expect to be able to go down there and just catch giants, because I'd only ever spent probably 5 or 6 days there in my life down there. So I don't know it as well as the locals do. But it is an awesome place to fish. If you look at my highlights on my live stream, it's like bone fishing in a tropical paradise. There's white beaches, little rocks all over it. If the brim moves, you can see it. If there's a massive brim digging on the bottom, you'll be able to see it from a kilometre away. You'd see the grey mud all coming up. So it's a bit of the frontier fishery of Tasmania that the locals aren't real keen on telling you all the details about. Like, I'm sure Isaac will be a bit wishy-washy on telling you exactly what was going on. But there is enough space down there and enough little patches of rock for there to be some absolute giants in there. It's interesting. We've got a theory that later in the year that we run the ABT events, if we run an ABT in February, March on the Derwent, often gets one out of Ralph's, the big fish are down at Ralph's. As the year goes on, we've run tournaments as late as the middle of May. I reckon all those fish from Ralph's, they must sort of start making their way back up the river as they spawn late winter, early in spring.
Yeah.
So we've had tournaments. The later a tournament is, the higher up the river it's normally won. So we've had tournaments won at Bell Reeve and then up above the main Tasman Bridge there. We reckon the later it is, I think some of those big fish might move back up the system, because those 38, 39, 40 centimetre fish aren't always in the same places every year. And I think that as we learn more about that system, we'll learn more about how these fish en masse are moving between the river and the bay system. It's like two totally different fisheries. Derwent's a bit stained, clear water but stained. Current's a big factor. Ralph's is wind's a big factor, crystal clear water, heaps of shallows. Yeah, it's like two different fisheries.
Yeah, right. Sounds very cool. With both the areas, so what sort of lines and leaders were you running? Were you running a typical straight through, or what was your setup?
So I didn't. When I fished with Plitio on the Friday, he uses quite heavy braid and 10-pound leader, and he is like, he's fishing in oyster racks the whole time, but there are no oyster racks there. He's up them the whole time, and he fishes the jerkbait hard, and he gets up the fish, and he gets them in close. And when I got to Ralph's, I thought, well, you might need to do that in that shallow water. Again, the oyster reefs. I'm fishing on oyster reefs, and it's a little bit stained, the water. So I actually fished quite heavy leader. If I needed to finesse them and there wasn't much current, I did it on some 3-pound fluorocarbon. But for my general fishing, I actually use braid and leader. Typically a 7 or 8 pound Daiwa X-Link leader, 6 or 8 pound J braid. I actually used, for the big duo, I actually used my aqua rod, which is quite a fast taper rod, but it was something that once the fish hooked it on the oyster reef, I could hold it up high, wind it hard, and I had more chance of getting that fish's head up. Because all they have to do is touch one oyster and they're gone in there. It doesn't matter if you got 3 pound, 10 pound, 20 pound. It's savage. So I found I use braid and leader. I use the Daiwa in-feet. For the shallower diving lures like the Rosanti, I'd use the 7'1" in-feet, the 24 model or 23 model in-feet. And then I use the aqua rod for the big heavy one. And I've also, on the first day, used the Daiwa in-feet BFS with the Steve's bait caster on it. But again, with 10-pound leader on that rod and reel to cast it. Only because it had a heavy leader on it. So I said, well, I don't have to ring up another spin rod with a heavy leader if I use BFS. And the way it's set up, it was sort of across the wind. It was easy to cast and it was fun.
It was fun, and you definitely hooked a good fish.
Well, I did. No, on the first day I caught a whole limit on the BFS, but at the end of the session, on the first day I actually came back a bit early. I misjudged the amount of time it would take to get back to Ralph's, and I had half an hour to fish a bit of structure in the Derwent before I went to the weigh-in, and I tied a heavy cranker crab on it. I think I lost 3 fish in a row, big cranker crabs under structure. They might have been big fish, they might have been little fish, but every single one broke the leader. And at the end of it, I just got the leader. I think it had been on there so long, it had just perished. So I was getting it and just snapping 10-pound leader. So I retied that before the second day, but it was late at night and I must have tied a rubbish FG because I got busted off on the first fish in the morning. I hooked it and just one big pull and it broke that. I said, this rod's hoarded, I'm putting it away and I'll bring it out next tournament. So BFS was good and evil to me at the same time. I love using it. It's like I like the pulling power, and I like that Daiwa in-feet BFS because it's a regular taper rod, really slow action, forgiving. So even though I'm using heavy line and 10-pound leader, when they surge, there's just that little bit of give in them. You know, you need some sort of give in the system because otherwise what's going to give is the hooks in their mouth. I mean, none of us want that.
Exactly. All right, mate. Well, all of that was enough to get you onto the podium. 3rd place, mate. What do you get to take home for a 3rd place in Tassie?
About $1,200, and because I was the 2nd place Mercury owner, another 125 on the top of that. Mercury's been a great ABT sponsor. Every year they kick about 10 grand into the pool for the highest Mercury owners, and guys love the extra. If you're the top Mercury owner, it's an extra $250, and it's $450 an event they give away for it, and a nice little cash bonus to the guys that support the ABT sponsors.
Absolutely. All right. What about your next time you go down there? You're definitely going to put the Huon on the map?
Yeah, we did that trial event down the Huon and it was pretty amazing. Lots of big limits. A big system. It's too big for a kayak event, but it's great for a boat event. There's probably 20 to 30 Ks of fishable water. Wally and Mark caught 7 kilos out of their 76 fish they caught for the day. It was ridiculous. Like we caught 30 fish for the day for nearly 6 kilos. And when we're doing this interview now, we're just down here sussing out that event site and all the details for next time we come down in 2 years. Next year, it'll probably be the Derwent and the Huon, but now, I think we have 3 venues in Tassie that we can rotate between. St Helens is a great flats fishery. The guys that fish there, every guy you interview is going to have caught over 10 kilos for 10 fish at St Helens. So great fishery there as well. But to come to Tassie and to be able to, say, mix it up a bit, I think is pretty healthy for ABT down here.
Absolutely.
And one final shout out is to Steve Steer, who was the naming round sponsor of the event down the Derwent. Steersy's not the most flush sponsor with money, but he always invests in that Tasmania events. Awesome to see 2 Tasmanian guys win the 2 trophies. We've had times we've come down and Mainlanders have won the trophies, but Tassie guys have won it. Steersy actually came down. He worked on the bump tubs each day. He was having a chat to everyone. We do that on purpose to make him accessible and have a chat with the guys. Like, how cool is it to sit there and be waiting in line for the weigh and talking to the guy that invented the cranker crab? That's an experience money can't buy, and we love the competitors to get involved. And Steersy is humble enough and he loves the game enough to come and do that. So
Exactly. And in talking to him, in doing interviews with him, he is one of the most knowledgeable guys I've spoken to. He's very, very smart with the bream.
Oh, Steersy is the professor of Tasmanian bream down here. Pretty glad he doesn't fish him anymore because he is dangerous. He was always up there and taking money off everyone.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. Aside from that, you beat me to it. Was there anyone else you want to give a shout out to before we head
I just think all of our venues are great. Up at St Helens, we have a great event site. Bellerive Yacht Club. Even though if you watch the live weigh-in on the Sunday, there was the St Patrick's Day live band about 6 foot behind the scales on the weigh-in. It was a bit of a nightmare, that part of it. But it's a pumping place. The guys all enjoy the atmosphere in Tassie. The Tassie locals are awesome. It's unfortunate they don't have their local events anymore. They've had a string of different organisers running Tassie Classics down here, and I'm sure someone else will pick up the baton in due course. But they're all so welcoming when we come down. They're helping everyone out. They all want it to happen every year, but the cost of the Spirit of Tasmania basically puts paid to that. Just for your listeners' information, my car and boat and a couple of cabins each way costs $4,000 return.
Wow.
To go across the Bass Strait. They call it the Bass Strait tax here. So even though we might have big fields, everyone spends a lot of money coming and doing it, which is why we only do it every second year. Let's just save up to blow it all in a Tassie year.
Exactly. Well, we look forward to seeing that again in 26, I guess.
Yep, Hugh and River and Derwent, bring it on, mate. Appreciate your time to interview us, and you'll enjoy talking to Isaac and Pete Bruckle. Pete Bruckle only got me by 10 grams too. I was like, normally I'm the one that does someone by 10 grams, but it's like cricket, mate. It evens itself out over the time, and nothing you can do about it.
That's it. He's a great guy, and it was good to see him get 2 good results. So I look forward to talking to him shortly.
Just interestingly, the Angler of the Year race has just got pretty interesting. There's probably 4 or 5 guys now that have got a real shot back on the mainland of sealing it out. Guys like Mario, myself, Pete Bruckle, Mark Healy came down, and even though he's won 2 events, he's only 5 and 8 points clear of second and third. So winning a couple of events doesn't guarantee you a thing. It's nearly how good is your worst event rather than how good is your best event. We've had years where it's been a runaway, someone's run away with it. It looks like this year's going to be a pretty tightly contested one. So looking forward to that.
Definitely. Yeah, I was going to say for Mark Healy, getting a 4th certainly didn't hurt his chances.
Well, and I look at that. If I'm trying to win AOY, I'm thinking, how many points can I pick up on Mark? And I picked up 1 point that event. I picked up maybe 2 or 3 the event before. So you just got to stay in the race and take it deep, don't you?
Exactly. All right, mate, we're going to leave it there. Thank you for making the time to have a talk, and I'm sure I'll get to speak to you before the year is out.
Hopefully, DT. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. All right, so introducing our new sponsor, Podium Marine Wraps. They're your go-to destination in Sydney for custom vinyl wraps to elevate the look of all your boats. Now, Corey's based in Ingleburn, but he does service the whole of Sydney, and he will service around the country, so just get in touch with him. I'll give you the details in a minute. Now, Podium Marine Wraps have the ability to include sponsor logos, your favourite fish species, or any design you can dream of. Podium Marine Wraps offers a specialised touch to your marine vessel, not just limited to boats, but they also specialise in kayaks and yachts. Visit podiummarinerapps.com.au or email them at info@podiummarinerapps.com.au and transfer your marine experience today. All right, so coming in second place, dropping 5 fish for 5.42 kilos on the Saturday, backing it up on the Sunday with 5 fish for 4.45 kilos, giving him a total of 9.87 kilos. I'd like to welcome for the second time in a row, Mr. Peter Bruckle. Welcome back, mate.
Great, cheers. Good to be back.
2 shows in a row. How good's that?
Yeah, that's it. My record.
Mate, it's really, really good. And as we'll get into in a minute, mate, you had a cracking couple of days down there.
Yeah, cracking days. I loved it. It was, unbelievable place to fish down there.
All right. Now, is this? I didn't ask this before, but have you fished Tasmania before? Is this your first trip, or have you been over there?
Yeah, nah, it's my third trip.
Okay, so been there before, which is great.
Yeah, third in boat as a boater, and I think I've done 2 as non-boater.
Okay. Yeah, and by far, I'd imagine by far this was your most successful trip.
Oh, by far. It'd be pretty hard to probably back that up again.
I think so. In full comps,
Yeah.
placing highly is very difficult. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
I know you had a good couple of days down there. Let's start with the pre-fish because I think you had a pretty special pre-fish.
Yeah, we did. Like I decided I was going down to Ralph's Bay, so we took off down there. We got the girls to drop us off down there, and then they took cars back to Hobart.
Yeah.
Then we sort of gingered around, had a look around, and then just first cast clonk. I'm like, oh my God. Look at the size of that, 43 pork.
First cast.
That is a monster. First cast. So then I'm like, oh, well, I'm going away from here. Went down around the corner a bit on another rocky point, but it's just pure white sand.
Right.
So you're just cruising along on an electric motor until you're seen at school, and then just casting in front of the school and, just marrying up.
Right.
Yeah, marrying your lure up into school and then pause a little bit and twitch, bang, you're on. Like, it's incredible.
Wow.
Like, most addictive fishing I've ever done. I could spend a month there doing that.
What was the day like? Was it like a bright sunny day where you had really good vision, or was there a bit of chop, or how?
Oh, there was a bit of wind on the Friday.
Yeah. Which
sort of helped a bit, just a slight ripple on the water. That was helping, but it was harder to see them. So the live was helping a little bit, but when you're in 300 mil of water sometimes, you're just sort of looking for the fins to come up out of the water.
Right. Wow.
And you could just see the schools and you're just like, oh, there they are. And then just like, yeah, adrenaline just kicks in and you're trying to pitch it right just in front of them and, marrying up. So you're dragging the lure in front of them as they get there. And, yeah, it was awesome. So on the Friday, I moved all around Ralph's Bay and I was like 7.3 kegs. Are you kidding me? And I'm not even seriously staying in the spots that I wanted to.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was like really good. But I know what happens when this happens. I've done it before.
Yep.
I'll collapse.
Yeah, mate, you've done yourself a mischief.
Yeah, it's happened a few times. Peaking too early.
Hey, it happens. What were you using to target them down there? Had you changed it up from St. Helens, or were you running the same lures?
Yeah, I was sort of like in the clear waters, thought I'd try the Duro again.
Yep.
And did that, but I wasn't getting the same effect on it.
Yeah.
And so then I went, look, it's pure sand. I'm going to try the Twitch 50 Smig, Spooky Smig, and because it puffs the stand up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I found I was end up slow rolling at Twitch 50, which I've never really done a lot of.
Wow.
But I was just watching it going, oh, that's pretty nice the way that's going. And then I found a school and then threw it in there and bang. I went, well, that works.
Okay.
And then I tried a few other colours out. I just couldn't get that they were starting to follow it. And I kept falling back to that and they'd eat that.
Yeah, okay.
So,
yeah,
it just must be that silvery, clear sort of look that the Spooky Smig's got.
Yeah, okay. And you reckon, like, it's a lure, called a Twitch 50, yet you slow rolled it. Did you find that if you didn't slow roll it, they kind of turned away?
Yeah. Well, if I started twitching it, they'd just leave it.
Yeah.
They'd just like come up to it and then just turn away. But if I just kept it just moving with the bib, just puffing the sand up a little bit, like really slow, it was just clunk.
Wow. All right.
So once it took me about 5 or 6 hours to work that out on pre-fish, but yeah.
Well, that is a good thing on pre-fish is all right. All right, mate, you had a cracking bag on pre-fish. Tell us about comp day. Tell us about the Saturday.
Well, Saturday, can't remember where I started, 20th or something, 30th. Oh, no, 12th, I think it was there.
Yeah.
12th there. And I went, let's go. We're going to Rouse Bay. So off we went.
Hold on.
Got there. The tide was a bit late.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no. So I went to this rocky edge that I sort of was like eyed off. I didn't really fish it, but I went, oh, that'd be good on a low tide, I reckon. So I went over there and got a couple of fish. And then, on the Saturday, I've got the days mixed up.
Okay.
On the Saturday, I went to one edge. We pulled in and we did one edge. There was a slight ripple on it. I'm mixing my days up, sorry.
Yep.
There was a slight edge on it. There was a slight breeze on it. And I just went clunk, 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 5.1 kilos.
Really?
In like a matter of 5 casts.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And then we went and did our sight fishing, but they were all small.
Yeah.
Couldn't see the bigger schools.
Mm.
And then we went back and done the edge again about 4 hours later, and then just clunked a couple of real good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my bag for the day.
That was your bag. And was that on the Twitch 50?
Yeah, all on the Twitch 50, the Spooky Smig.
The Spooky Smig. All right.
I can't believe it that worked so well up there. Like, I had everything. Like, ask Adam from fishing.com. I probably spent $3,000 on lures before I went.
Fair enough. It often comes down to that, and there's 3 in your box that'll do the job.
Yeah, well, but if you lose them, then you start to cry.
Yes, yeah. You lose all confidence as well.
That's why I've got I like to have 20 of everything.
20 is a good number, mate. I guess, but then again, from what you've said before, if you're fishing 3 and 4 pound, you can definitely go through a few lures if you have a tough run.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
So yeah,
100% there.
All right. So you ended up with 5.42 on day one. Do you drop any ones that would have made your bag better?
Yeah, I dropped a couple, but no, look, I didn't get to see him, so I'm not too sure.
Sure.
That's a good thing. When you drop them next to the boat, that's when it hurts.
Yeah, fair enough. But
I didn't even think I thought I wouldn't even be in the top 10 with that.
Yeah.
We sort of cruised back and I thought, oh, no way. I said, I'll be way out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Because, you got Isaac and that there, like he's a gun, local guy. And then you look at the bags in the history that come out of there and go, it's nowhere near it.
Wow.
So I went, and then when I got back, I'm like, oh, shit, everyone's had a bad day. But it was the tides were pretty horrible, but that's when we had to fish what we had.
That's right. Were you in second or third overnight? Do you remember?
Third.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Third or second? No, I think I was third or second, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely right up there. All right. Tell us about Sunday. So Sunday you ended up with 4.45, so a little bit down. Yeah. Actually, just on a kilo down. So how'd that play out for you?
Oh, it was a struggle all day.
Really?
It was a glass out, like total mirror. Like, I caught a couple of fish. Look, I had a bag, but it was like terrible.
Right.
Like all 30 tippers. Oh. And I'm like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
Collapse is coming. And then because we had a 4:45 finish.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said, well, the day's not over yet. It's 2:00. The day's not over yet. We got to allow 40 minutes to get back. So we should probably make that a little bit longer because there's a bit of breeze coming.
Yep.
And then I just went back to me 3 rocky points that I did in pre-fish, upgraded a couple, then the wind really picked up. And then I said, I'm going to go back. I'm running out of time. I'm going to go straight back to where I got them yesterday.
Yep.
And the wind was blowing on. I could hardly stand on the boat.
Yeah.
Because it went from glass out to like 30 knots.
Yeah.
And just bang, 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 bang. Then we're in the boat, scales are all out. We're trying to figure out upgrades. So it was incredible. And I just thought, oh, that'll keep me up there.
Yeah.
I'll be in the top 10. I'll easy stay in the top 10 now.
Yeah. Yeah. Which turned out to be correct.
Yeah, and then got back and like everyone goes, you just come second, Brookle. And I'm just like, really?
How good's that?
Because like I've forgotten the guy's name that's won it the previous years before. Like they always come in with that 6.5 kilo bag and bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone couldn't find it.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, there's a few more people fishing Ralph's Bay too now. So I'm thinking maybe they're very spooky down there, the fish.
Yeah.
Like, but they're big.
They're big.
If you can get onto them.
That's it. But
they are big.
But it was blowing, 25, 30 knots in the afternoon. If it had been blowing that in the morning, I'm assuming you couldn't have got across there.
Yeah, well, it was an outgoing tide, so you probably could have.
Yeah.
Just following it. It's just if you've got pressure waves, that makes it a lot different.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I reckon I still would have got there.
Okay.
But it was just a slow, wet ride.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. All right. Over the 2 days, you got most of your fish on the Sprat 50 and Spooky Smig, I think you said?
Yeah, that's right. And I was just doing exactly the same thing on the Sunday. I didn't bother chewing lures.
Yeah.
I went, I know that. I know all that's not working.
Yeah.
I tried a couple of panishes on, but we couldn't find, our biggest thing is we couldn't find the fish.
Yeah.
But we tried, and then, look, we found, like my non-boater was blown away. We found like schools and schools of them in these weed patches of 300 mil of water.
Yeah.
But you could drag your lure straight through it, and like over the little like weed patches, probably about, I don't know, 7 meters round.
Yeah.
Cast your lure straight over the top of it, and then bring it over all different speeds. As soon as the boat got close to that weed, about 50 bream would just launch out from it.
Wow.
It was incredible. He goes, oh, mate, what? They were that focused on eating the barnacles on the weed. I don't think they were caring about anything else.
Yeah. Sometimes brim do that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, mate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, mate, it was good enough to put you in a second place just in front of Morgo.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. 10 grams.
10 grams. 10 grams is pretty good. A little bit behind Isaac. Another 800 grams, but 10 grams in front of Morgo. So, yeah. So, do you...
Yeah, it's still decision makings. As you do more and more, you learn. I should have probably left Ralph's Bay because I had a good spot up the river. I should have left early and done the gauntlet, but I went, nah, I'm sticking it out. That's what kayaks do to you.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, mate. You're not going to paddle for 2Ks for a maybe.
Nah.
So.
No, that's right. And I went, I should in the boat, but we didn't. And it ended up working out on the day. I just couldn't. If I had two kicker fish, like I would have got, like Isaac just had them 2 fish and I didn't.
That's right.
Good size, yeah.
That's right. You dump out your little ones and it's a whole different day. So
that's right. But it was good to get rid of all the little ones and come back with what I had.
Exactly. It's still a really good bag.
Because it starts getting stressful about 2:30, 3 o'clock when your bag's a bit small.
Absolutely. All right, mate. For a second place. Now, do you remember what you got in this one? Or that just go to the wife as well?
No, I think it was $1,250 or something. I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
She grabs all that. She looks after all that stuff.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
So I got that and got me badge and got Mercury bonus.
Oh, yeah.
It was good. Got some stuff to put on the bar wall. And
very nice. Very nice.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. A second and a third in the 2 ABTs down there, mate. It's a fantastic result.
Yeah. And then it looks like it's got me up to second in the AOY. So that's pretty.
Well, there you go, mate.
Pretty exciting as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. And what's your next comp? What's coming up for you?
Off to Nelson on Thursday.
On Thursday. So, okay. So by the time this comes out, that'll be run and done. You're going to go and paddle around in the Hobies again.
Yeah. Go down there and do that. And then come back, get the boats ready and go and pre-fish the Hawkesbury for a week.
Oh, okay. You're not going to do the Open?
Nah.
No. Fair enough.
No, I haven't got time. We got Woy as well.
Oh, yeah. In the Hobies?
Yeah. I'll just end up fishing myself out. So
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, mate. One more thing we forgot to say, mate. Who do you want to give a shout out to before we head off?
I'll tell you what, Naughty, of course. Naughty, like, the man's a legend, does everything to help me, whatever. Like, even Daiwa there, Chris Hickson told me to try a few of these new ink pens.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a few of them, and they are absolutely dynamite, Ros. They can pitch that lure a lot further than what I thought, what I had.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was pretty cool. And, yeah, and other than that, Morgan and Nicole, they run a great comp. So, yeah, it's all good. All the boys that are there, like, everyone's, like, nice. And, yeah. We'll have a chat and a shit stir and a laugh.
Very good. Very good. All right, mate. I reckon we'll leave it there, mate. Congratulations on a stellar run there. And, mate, hopefully the form continues and I get to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, no worries. That'd be great. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that's all we've got for the angler interviews for you today. I wasn't able to speak to Isaac Harris, but I did jump on to the ABT YouTube page to just have a bit of a look, so I can still report a little bit about what he did. So he did fish Ralph's Bay and got a lot of fish, so a lot of small fish, but in amongst that was some crackers. Fishing shallow sand flats covered with cungy in 40 to 50 centimetres of water. What he found was while the tide was running, the fish were biting, and as that slowed down, they tended to go off the chew. His lure of choice for the weekend was the Lucky Craft Flash Minnow in Ghost Aori, and then he had another one that looked a little bit like a hardy head, so that was his go-to lure for the weekend. High sticking using sort of a twitch and pause jerkbait retrieve. So 6 pound P, a 6 pound braid, 6 pound leader, and long cast targeting any of the structure that he could see. So that's just a real quick rundown of what he did. But if you're looking for some flash minnows, jump over to fishing.com.au. I know he's got a bunch there. All right, and if you're looking for another tournament shirt, so like I've said in the last couple of episodes, I am getting just a small run of the Brim Fishing Project shirts. Now, they're made out of milk silk. They've got a hood to protect your face and your head and your neck and all that sort of stuff. They've got thumb holes in the hands so that the sleeves come down over the back of your hands right to your knuckles. I've found these to be a super comfortable design of shirt. They're quite generous in sizing, so if you're tight in a large is probably going to fit you and so on. If you're tight in a medium is probably going to fit you comfortably. If you're loose in a large, you probably want to go down a size. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. But yeah, $50 a piece. Jump on Facebook. There's a couple of posts there where you can register your interest. I will just be ordering what's been pre-ordered, so definitely jump over there and get that underway. What'll happen, we'll have a couple more weeks of orders, and then we'll have to shut off the orders. It's going to take probably a couple of months to get those in. So yeah, jump over to Facebook and have a look. If you can't find that, you can reach out to me on Instagram and I will send a link or take your details. Either way, if you reach out to me, we'll get you a shirt. All right, and this weekend, just on a personal note, I'm heading up with Hedgie for his birthday, for his 50th. We're going to Harvey Bay. We're going to smack some big fish up there with Carl Dubois, who also had a birthday. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great weekend. Might post some little images over the weekend if we can get some cracking fish. Good luck and congratulations to all the guys in the Hawkesbury and the Australian Open. And next week, I look forward to bringing you another episode of the Brim Fishing Project. So thanks for hanging in there, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you were informed, inspired and entertained. If you were able to learn something or just enjoyed listening, please consider subscribing and rate us on your favourite podcasting platform.